The war had stretched into its 5th year, dragging star systems and species into its grinding maw. Humanity, a late addition to the Galactic Coalition, had sent its best diplomats, scientists, and soldiers, none of which seemed to impress their allies. They were tolerated more than welcomed, pitted more than respected. The Zarn Dominion was winning, and the Coalition's once confident unity had begun to fray. In the hangar bay of the dreadnought Xerxes Ark, a collection of alien commanders gathered around a glowing battlefield hologram. Their bioluminescent skin pulsed in irritation. Satellite imaging had failed again. Zarn jammers were more effective than anticipated. Several officers argued in overlapping frequencies until an unexpected noise disrupted the cadence. The low, gravelly sound of human laughter. They turned in unison. Sergeant Amos Kane leaned on a rail nearby, arms folded. His coalition-issued armor looked awkward over his battered desert fatigues. Sleeves rolled high despite regulations. His beard, streaked with iron and snow, framed a mouth perpetually quirked in amusement. A long duffel hung from his shoulder, the end of an old wooden rifle stock protruding just slightly. "Something funny, human?" snapped a tall Varaxi, his voice clicking through a translator node. "Just the part where none of your fancy toys work," Kane said. "Bit of a problem when your whole doctrine depends on perfect conditions." There was a silence, cold and brittle. Someone muttered in Gal, 3 dialect, too fast for the translator to catch, but Amos had learned enough from the sneers to guess the meaning. General Tharnis, a towering insectoid with crystalline helm, stepped forward. "You were brought in under special council authorization, a relic of Earth's past. We expected unconventional insight, not mockery." Amos grinned. "Then you should have read my file. I'm all out of insights, just got experience, and a scope older than half your fleet." An amused twitch passed across the general's facial plates. "You understand that sniping is obsolete? We've outgrown such barbaric inefficiency. Auto-targeting, predictive AI. All jammed to hell the second we land." Amos cut in. "You boys built yourselves a war machine that panics when the lights go out. Old Earth snipers trained without satellites. We listened to the wind, read the terrain, felt pressure shifts in our teeth." Several alien officers scoffed. One, a sleek Nyari lieutenant, leaned toward another and whispered with obvious disdain. "He carries a bolt-action weapon. Obsolete projectile kinetics. This is a farce." Tharnis silenced them with a wave of his serrated hand. "Regardless of your methods, Sergeant, you are now part of Fire Team Echo for Operation Daggerfall. The target is a Zarn command spire on Loktar 3. Intelligence, limited as it is, suggests high command personnel will be present. You will embed with Echo and provide manual support." "Meaning I shoot things while your boys figure out how to reboot their drones," Kane said, adjusting his rifle strap. "Fine by me." The mission briefing ended. Officers filed out, eyes avoiding the humans, whispers trailing behind them like vapor. Amos lingered, watching the flickering hologram slowly collapse into static. His fingers brushed the wood of his rifle, worn smooth, stained dark from years of sweat and blood. It felt more alive than any plasma coil or pulse cannon. In the troop bay, the rest of Fire Team Echo prepped gear. They stood taller, leaner, genetically enhanced or cybernetically improved. Amos was none of those things. His shoulders ached. His knees clicked. But when he checked the bolt on his rifle, when he sighted down the barrel, something in him snapped into place, sharp, clear, ready. A young human corporal approached. "Sir, Sergeant Kane, I just want to say, my grandfather talked about snipers. Said they could kill from a mile away without anyone knowing what hit them." Amos didn't smile. "Yeah, well, your grandfather probably also told you not to poke bears." The corporal flushed and walked off. The drop pod shuddered around them as they launched toward the surface. Green light washed over their helmets, followed by red as electromagnetic interference scrambled all HUDs. Predictably, cursing broke out across languages. "Told you," Amos muttered. They landed hard. Dust erupted in all directions, scattering heat signatures and rendering motion trackers useless. The Zarn had chosen their ground well. Choking jungle twisted around metallic ruins, and a command spire loomed miles in the distance, pulsing with alien life. Echo formed up, trying to calibrate scanners. Nothing worked. Amos simply knelt, pulled out a folded tripod, and set up on a slab of broken alien concrete. He adjusted the scope slowly, deliberately. No one gave orders. No one spoke to him. He might as well have been invisible. It suited him. Through the sight, he watched the jungle breathe. Wind pushed leaves left, then right. Movement, deliberate, beneath the canopy. Too regular for wildlife. He adjusted his windage, calculated drop, ignored everything else. Behind him, a Varaxi cursed at his broken pulse cannon. Amos whispered to no one. "Let's see if you bastards bleed like we did." His finger curled around the trigger, but he didn't fire. Not yet. There would be a moment, and he would know it when it came. And when it did, the war would change. But for now, he waited. The jungle didn't breathe. It waited. Thick, metallic vines curled around crumbling pylons, stretching high into the sulfuric sky like the skeletons of dead gods. Above, twin suns burned through the clouds, tinting the haze with an unnatural green hue. Sergeant Amos Kane crouched beside the cracked husk of a downed drone, one hand on the hot dirt, the other resting on his rifle. Around him, fire team echoes stumbled through dense brush, cursing in a medley of alien tongues. Their armor was top of the line, adaptive, reactive, bleeding edge. None of it worked. Zarn interference swept across the terrain like a storm. Satellite links were gone. HUD overlays flickered and died. Drones spiraled into the trees like birds struck mid-flight. The jungle devoured them. "Commander Yerex, my systems are blind." A Nyaricom specialist rasped through distorted static. "We all are," Yerex growled, antennae twitching with frustration. "Fall back to analog protocols." Human style. Kane chuckled low in his throat, earning glares. He didn't need a signal. He had line of sight. Movement flickered in the distance. Too disciplined to be wildlife. Zarn recon units, shifting with uncanny synchronicity through the trees, low and fast like predatory shadows. Amos lifted his scope and tracked one through foliage, watching its limbs flex as it sniffed the air with infrared sensors. They'd be closing in fast. Yerex made a sharp gesture. Defensive posture. Triangulate firing vectors manually. A Krathan sniper, eyes wide with panic, fumbled with an optical rangefinder and cursed in his native clicks. "I can't calibrate. Everything's corrupted. We're blind." Amos didn't look up. "You got two eyes, don't you?" The Krathan snarled. "We evolved past this primitive guesswork." "Funny," Amos muttered. "Guesswork kept me alive long, before your kind could crawl." He drifted from the group, silent as breath. No one tried to stop him. No one offered help. Echo's formation degraded into a tense sprawl, every soldier uncertain, unmoored. Without their tech, they were tourists with guns. Amos found a ridge, barely more than a mound of collapsed metal wrapped in vine and rot. He lay flat and unslung the rifle, adjusting the worn leather strap with practiced ease. He scanned the valley below, where the jungle opened into a basin of shattered stone and a glimpse of the command spire's obsidian flanks. The spire pulsed at its apex like a dark heartbeat, alive with Zarn intelligence. A Zarn carrier crawler trundled into view. 20 meters tall, armored in living crystal, its surface shimmered with embedded drones and tendrils that twitched like insects under skin. It moved with grotesque grace, followed by clusters of Zarn infantry, four-armed, eyeless, sinewy things that seemed to flow rather than march. Echo hadn't seen it yet. Amos tapped the side of his rifle, then his temple. "Old man, you're about to earn your ride home." He pulled a small notebook from his vest, tattered, almost falling apart, and flipped to a dog-eared page of hand-drawn ballistic tables. No smart scope, no guided round, just gravity, distance, and instinct. He measured the wind with a torn cloth, felt it tug like memory. Behind him, plasma fire snapped to life. Bright bolts hissed through the foliage, lighting the jungle in flashing strobes. Echo had engaged prematurely. The Zarn surged forward like a hive broken open, screeching without mouths. Organic cannons fired globules of corrosive acid, splattering coalition armor and trees alike. Screams rose. Amos stayed still. Through his scope, the carrier's weak point became clear. an external relay node, partially exposed along the left flank. Half the alien infantry clustered there, shielding it unconsciously. He'd have one shot. Then they'd know where he was. He exhaled slowly. The rifle cracked, a thunderclap in the jungle. The round cut through vines, air, and armor. The relay exploded in a blossom of green fire. The carrier lurched, systems blinking wildly. Zarn infantry stopped mid-charge, spasming as if electrocuted. A second later, they scattered, some collapsing as the connection to the hive mind abruptly severed. The battlefield changed in a heartbeat. Echo turned toward the sound of the shot. Even from here, Amos could see Yerex's stunned expression. One Varaxi scout pointed toward the ridge, slack-jawed. No targeting AI, no radar ping, just a bullet and a man behind it. Amos didn't wait for applause. He adjusted the bolt, chambered the next round, and sighted another alien. A clean line to the skull. He fired. Another Zarn dropped. The coalition troops regained their footing, driven not by command but by disbelief. Confidence followed confusion. Plasma bolts found purchase now, no longer scattered in desperation. They moved in formation, no longer panicked. Down below, a Nyari technician crouched beside the fallen relay. It's severed. Their command structure is broken. They're vulnerable, Yerek said, staring again at the distant ridge. Because of him. Amos didn't hear the words. He didn't need to. The rifle spoke for him. He shifted again, crawling to a new perch as the jungle ignited below, the spire flickering uncertainly in the distance. Smoke curled toward the sky in long, dark tendrils. The war had tilted. He pulled the bolt back slowly, smiling just once at the satisfying click, and waited for the next shot. The jungle was burning. Smoke rose in oily pillars, twisting to the trees like serpents scenting blood. Ash coated the leaves, the ground, the armor of Fireteam Echo. The once covert assault had become a siege, and now the siege was unraveling. Amos Kane lay prone on a narrow ridge, half buried beneath ferns slick with alien sap. His breath was calm, steady, measured in seconds and fractions. The rifle beneath him was hot, but uncomplaining, its ancient barrel lined with soot and history. Every bone in his body ached. He hadn't slept in 2 days. The jungle offered no silence, only the low hum of dying machines and the distant screeches of a hive in disarray. Below, Echo had advanced but stalled at the basin edge. The Zarn, even fractured, were relentless. The command spire loomed less than 2 clicks away, surrounded by a labyrinth of obsidian defenses and bioengineered trenches. Waves of half-mad infantry still surged from the hive nodes, twitching and unpredictable without centralized control, but deadly all the same. The carrier he'd crippled lay smoking and inert, yet it had been only a limb. Amos had missed the heart. He adjusted his scope. His eye locked onto the highest tier of the spire. There, a figure, taller than the others, wrapped in a chitinous cloak. No movement, no pacing. Watching, observing. The Zarn war commander. Even without magnification, Amos felt the weight of it. Not a general, not a strategist. A living core of the hive. Kill it, and the entire planetary defense would collapse. Fail, and the war would swallow Echo whole. He exhaled through his nose. This was a shot. A voice crackled softly in his earpiece, surprisingly clear despite the interference. Yerex, Sergeant Kane, we're losing ground. They're adapting faster than we can cull them. Amos didn't respond immediately. He adjusted windage. Humidity was rising. Vents on his rifle hissed faintly. Do you have eyes on anything actionable? Yes, Amos said. Yerex waited. A command target. Upper spire. Range is extreme. Winds are shifting. Heat mirage thick. But I've got a clean line. There was a pause. Can you take the shot? I can make the shot, Amos said. Doesn't mean I should. A long silence followed. Yerex spoke again, softer this time. The rest of us don't have another move. Amos nodded to no one and shut off the comm. He blinked sweat from his eyes. Focus narrowed. Through the scope, the world became still. The war dropped away, the heat, the chaos, the dying, all irrelevant. Just him and the shot. His fingers danced along the stock. The O would hum like a tuning fork, knowing what was coming. He checked the distance. Just over 2,000 meters. He'd made longer shots, but never under this pressure, never with the fate of a battlefield knotted into his trigger pull. He exhaled again. The wind stirred left, then right. He waited. Images flickered in his mind, not uninvited. A younger man crouched in the desert, breath fogging over a sand-scarred scope. A moment in a ruined city. Him watching a child step over broken glass, unaware of the sniper above her. A promise whispered over a grave. No more wars for men like me. Only ghosts. The figure in the spire turned slightly, exposing the thorax. Bare. Vulnerable. The wind stilled. Amos pulled the trigger. The rifle cracked like thunder, and time fractured. The bullet tore through the air, slicing the jungle's breathless hush. It passed unseen by all but the insects, arcing impossibly toward its mark. The commander stiffened. A bloom of green-black matter exploded from its chest. The spire dimmed. Then silence. No screeches. No shrieks. The hive fell still. Below, the Zarn forces convulsed. Some collapsed mid-charge. Others dropped weapons, hissing in agony. A ripple of confusion spread like a virus, and then retreat. Full, panicked retreat. Echo stood watching, weapons lowered. Stunned as the enemy scattered in all directions, leaderless and disoriented. Yerex's voice returned, this time hoarse with disbelief. It's done. Gods above, you did it. Amos didn't answer. He sat up slowly, bones cracking, the heat of the shot still in his hands. The jungle smelled different now. Less like death. More like rain after a drought. He pulled the bolt back, ejected the spent casing, and caught it in one gloved hand. He stared at it for a long moment, just a piece of brass and lead, and slipped it into a pouch on his chest. Not as a trophy, as a reminder. Behind him, the first coalition soldier reached the ridge. A young Krathen, eyes wide, stopped a few feet short and said nothing. Amos didn't speak either. He stood, slung his rifle over his shoulder, and walked past the stunned soldier, back toward the smoldering tree lean. He didn't need recognition. He needed another shot. Amos Kane walked through the aftermath like a ghost. The jungle, once choking with heat and violence, now lay broken and silent. Coalition troops moved among the remains, scavenging, cataloging, counting the cost. Smoke still clung to the trees, but the gunfire had stopped. The war here was over. For now, he passed twisted wreckage of Zarn tech. Black spires cracked open like eggshells, drones twitching in death, and alien corpses strewn like discarded armor. Their strange blood stained the ground in streaks of green and violet. Most had died frozen in place, minds severed from the hive too quickly to comprehend the end. Echo was scattered among the ruins. Medics worked in hushed urgency. Survivors leaned against rocks and roots, eyes hollow. Yerek stood at the edge of the battlefield, speaking quietly with command staff that had arrived only after the enemy fled. Dropships now buzzed in a slow orbit, and mobile relays brought fragile order back to the chaos. Communications had returned, but nobody wanted to speak. When Amos approached, Yerek turned, antennae twitching once in acknowledgement. The alien commander looked smaller now, less imposing, as though the burden of victory weighed heavier than the threat of defeat. You never mentioned, Yerek said, voice low, that you could shoot through gods. Amos dropped his duffel by a charred log and sat without ceremony. I don't shoot gods, just things that think they are. Yerek nodded slowly, considering the statement like a puzzle. The spire is down. The planetary hive is dormant. We have total air superiority. Intelligence says the remaining Zarn are fleeing into subterranean tunnels, disorganized. We're not calling it a final victory, but it's a rupture they may never mend. I wasn't aiming to end the war, Amos said, just that day. And yet, Yerek murmured, that one shot was all I had. A silence stretched between them. It wasn't awkward. It was heavy, honest. Eventually, the young corporal from before approached, the same one who had spoken to Amos in the drop bay. His armor was scorched and dented, but he still stood tall. His voice trembled with something close to reverence. Sir, they've, Transfer your data to every battalion's after-action report. Command wants to debrief you. Some are calling it a strategic miracle. Amos rubbed his face, fingers dragging through sweat and ash. Let him call it what they want. There's more, the corporal added. The other teams, non-humans, they've been asking about your training, wondering how you fired that shot, if it could be replicated. Amos didn't answer immediately. He reached into his pack, pulled out the notebook, and handed it over. The corporal took it gently, opening the first page to see lines of equations, drawings, wind charts, and cryptic, handwritten notes. It was stained with time, more artifact than manual. No targeting overlays, no ballistic AI, just feel and habit. Amos said, takes decades, maybe a lifetime. The corporal flipped to the back. A list of names was scrawled there, each crossed out but one. Your old squad, he asked. My old students, Amos replied. Snipers, real ones. Only one left? Amos stared past him, toward the ruins of the spire. Not anymore. The corporal didn't know what to say to that. He nodded once, tucked the notebook into a satchel, and left, walking like someone who knew their life had changed without knowing exactly how. The sun had begun to set, painting the broken battlefield in shades of bronze and red. A breeze passed through the trees. Cooler now, no longer heavy with the scent of war. The jungle would reclaim itself soon enough. Yerex looked toward the horizon. The Coalition won't forget what you did here. They might, Amos said. People forget. That's why we write it down. You could stay. Train more. Make sure they don't. Amos considered it. The rifle on his back felt heavier with the question. I'll stay long enough to teach the next fool who wants to learn how to miss 100 times before making one perfect shot, he said finally. But I'm not joining another army. I've seen what armies become when the killing gets easy. Yerex offered no argument. Perhaps he understood. From a distance, Amos could hear the first laughter since the operation began. Some soldiers had started a small fire and were passing around ration packs. Tired, hungry, but alive. He stood slowly, knees complaining, and turned toward the dark jungle path that led to the nearest evac point. As he walked away from the spire's ruins, one hand rested lightly on the wooden stock of the rifle. No medals would come, no grand ceremonies. But somewhere, across a dozen worlds, the story of the old human sniper would spread. They had mocked him, dismissed him, until one shot turned the war.